Hi guys, Colesy here, and today I'm going to be recommending a bunch of PCs ready and prepared for Modern Warfare 3. I don't know why I said prepared, the game is already out, but I figured I'd give some recommendations because I know I did with the last Call of Duty release and people seem to find that useful, so I'm doing it again for Modern Warfare 3. So I have a bunch of PCs for the minimum spec and the recommended spec of the game for both the UK and the US. Hopefully these suggestions will help you pick out a PC that works for your budget. I always try and go for the cheapest, good quality PC that meets the requirements of the game. All the links to these PCs will be in the description. So let's get on with it and look at some PCs, shall we? We're going to start off with the minimum spec PCs that meet the minimum spec that the game is looking for. And we're going to start with the UK PC. So first up, we have the Vibox V41 gaming PC with a Ryzen 5 4500 processor, GTX 1650 4GB graphics card, 16GB of RAM, and a 480GB SSD, Windows 11, all that stuff. Vibox, a brand that I have recommended a bunch of times. I actually have a Vibox PC here in the background of my office that you can't see, but it's down here. I did a video recently on that if you want to check that out. But yeah, this PC is a £514.95, so £515, and again, it's a decent looking little machine with a nice upgrade path in the future. The processor is a really decent, fairly recent up-to-date processor, so if you wanted to upgrade this by adding a more powerful graphics card in the future, then that's something that can easily be done, and as well adding more memory or storage. So yeah, I think for a good starting position for a gaming PC and one that meets the requirements of Modern Warfare 3, I think this is a good option for you. On to PC number 2 here, we have the CyberPower PC Regiment gaming PC. It's got an i3-10100F, a GTX 1650, 8GB of RAM, 500GB NVMe SSD. So compared to the last one, price-wise, this is £520 rather than £550. So they're very, very close price-wise. Now, this does only have 8GB of RAM as opposed to the 16GB of RAM that the last one had. I would ideally prefer to have a 16GB of RAM PC. I think that's more reasonable to have these days, more reasonable as a minimum amount of RAM, but Modern Warfare 3 specifically says the minimum requirements are 8GB of RAM, so this does still fit the minimum requirements. Again, we've got the 1650 graphics card, but this time we've gone for the Intel CPU with the i3 rather than the Ryzen 5. Personally, I think the last one I recommended is maybe a better bet than this one. I think it's got a little bit more going for it with the Ryzen 5 as opposed to the i3. Not that the i3 is a bad CPU by any means, but again, you're getting the 16GB with the last one as well. But I want to give you guys the option of a number of different brands and different PCs within that price range that still meet that minimum requirement that we're looking at. So this is an option for you. We're going to move on now to the options for the US. Option number 1 for the US, we have the Skytech Gaming Chronos Mini Gaming Computer PC Desktop with the i3-10100F, again, like we just saw from the UK, 1650 graphics card, 500GB SSD, 8GB of RAM. So pretty much identical spec to the last one we just saw from the UK. Now, this is $600, although I'm seeing right now that there is a $100 off coupon. Technically, if you can use that coupon, you can get this for $499.99, so $500 or $600 full price. Again, I think this is a reasonable amount to pay. I think this is a reasonable spec PC for the amount of money. Again, we're only looking at 8GB of RAM. Does meet the minimum, would be upgradable in future. You can add more RAM, that's not a problem. That is one of the easiest things to upgrade on a PC. And again, it does have a decent upgrade path in that you can add a newer CPU if you want down the line. You can add a new GPU down the line without having to like change the motherboard or anything like that. More storage is always a very easy thing to add as well. So that's option number 1 for the US. Option number 2 for the US for the minimum spec, we have the NSX Gaming PC Desktop. This has a Ryzen 5 5500, GTX 1650, 512GB M.2 NVMe, 16GB of DDR4 RAM. Near as damn it, $600, but we're getting 16GB of RAM, which is nice because it's twice as much. It's gonna be useful. It's what I would, like I said before, it's what I consider to be the minimum that you want to aim for if you can possibly do that. You definitely, 8 is the minimum. 16 is the sweet spot, I guess we would call it. But yeah, we're getting the Ryzen 5 5500, which is a nice CPU. I think better, in my opinion, than the i3-10100F, although they're both good. I mean, I haven't really compared them, but just off the top of my head, the Ryzen 5 5500 is newer, I believe. In my opinion, would probably be a little bit more powerful. Again, 1650, because the 1650 is that sweet spot of the minimum spec. So again, a good PC here. Now, if these are identical price, if you don't get that $100 coupon with the first one, I'd go for this one over the other one, but there is a $100 coupon, and $100 is a fair chunk of change, so I can understand going for the other one. But like I said, both of these will meet the minimum spec. For our final one, again, I'm recommending this because it is an option, although I don't really think this is the best option of the three personally, but this is an Acer Nitro 50, 12th gen i5 12400F, 1650 GTX 1650 graphics card, 8GB of RAM, 512GB NVMe M.2 SSD. So the reason for mentioning this one is mainly the brand. Acer is a well-known brand. It is a little bit more. It is $630, and that is with a discount. Apparently, normally it would be $880, which I think is a bit steep, to be honest. But you're getting an i5 12400F 12th gen i5, so yes, that's a very nice, modern, up-to-date CPU, very capable. We're still getting the 1650 like we are with all the other PCs. We're only getting 8GB of RAM, so again, we're missing out on the RAM that we would have had with the last PC, and we've got the same amount of storage as the others as well. So it is an option if you really trust Acer and you want to go with a name that you've maybe heard of more than you've heard of the others, then this is an option. But I don't think that the i5 12400F being more modern, more up to date than the i3, and it's probably roughly around the same age as the Ryzen 5, and probably performance, I don't think that's a big enough selling point to spend the extra, basically. And yeah, it is on sale, so when it's not on sale, then that is likely to be not quite as good of a deal as it looks now. That brings us to the end of the minimum spec PCs for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. We're going to move on now to the recommended spec. See what kind of money we're looking to spend on a recommended spec PC. So we're going to start off again with the UK PCs. We're starting off the recommended PCs again with a Vibox PC, the Vibox V75 gaming PC. This is a Ryzen 5 4500 processor. It has the RTX 3060 12GB graphics card, 16GB of RAM, and a terabyte SSD. So we're getting more storage. We're definitely aiming for 16GB now. We need the 16GB of RAM to meet that recommended spec, and we're looking more at the RTX 3060 graphics card as our recommended graphics card. So we're stepping up the performance a fair chunk, I would say, but in terms of price, £675. Again, it's not huge. It's not as big as maybe people assume that buying a gaming PC would be. Now, it's still, not cheap, but it doesn't just enable you to play one game, it is enabling you to play a whole plethora of games, including, indie games, free games, all that stuff. Obviously, we're looking at PCs that meet the Modern Warfare 3 spec, but it's going to be able to play a lot more than just that. So that is option 1 for you guys, for the UK. Now we'll move on to option 2. Option 2 here for the UK, we have the AdMe gaming PC. It has a Ryzen 5500 RTX 3060 graphics card, 16GB of RAM, terabyte NVMe SSD. Again, we're looking very similar spec. In fact, the only real difference in this one is it has a slightly newer CPU with the Ryzen 5500, but again, a very, very good PC, £700, so a little step up in terms of price, but not a huge jump, and I think it's still a very solid deal, and it's a good looking PC, and by all means on paper, this definitely meets the spec that we're looking for Modern Warfare 3. Is it worth the extra just to get that extra bit of CPU? If you can afford it, yeah, go for it, but if not, if you really are pushing the budget with the last PC, then grab that one. I don't think you're going to be disappointed either way, whichever PC you end up buying. I think you'll be quite impressed with both of these PCs. Last option I have here for the UK is a XUM. I still don't know how to pronounce that. XUM. Maybe it's just XUM. XUM Brava gaming PC, i5 10400F, RTX 3060, 32GB of RAM, 512GB NVMe SSD, and a terabyte hard drive. So this has more storage in that it has the 500GB SSD, which again, we're looking for an SSD really for the fastest load times and speed. So that's probably where you want to install the game. But if you want to store a lot of video or photos or just other games, I still store some games on a hard drive, then you've got that extra terabyte hard drive as well. So you're getting a lot more storage. Now, a big thing to talk about here is we're getting 32 gig of RAM. Now that's overkill as far as I'm concerned. For a lot of games, 32 is more than you will need, but if you're looking to do any sort of like video editing and stuff like that, having the extra RAM will really benefit your system. So it's a nice to have, but not a necessary. Like I said, 16 is kind of the sweet spot, but being as this is offering 32, I figured we'd look at it. And the i5-10400F, again, it's a few generations old now, but I don't think that makes it any less of a good performing CPU and a good pairing with the RTX 3060 as well. So £789, it's a little bit more. We're adding almost another £100 compared to the last PC, but we are getting double the amount of RAM. So it might be a decent option for you if you are looking for that. In terms of upgrade, then you're not really going to be looking to upgrade the RAM anytime soon. That is going to be 32 is going to be pretty good for a long time, I would assume. So yeah, another option here. I figured I'd bring it to you and let you guys make the decision. I'm just bringing you the options, having done the research and saying these will work and these will play the game and these will perform well. It is up to you to decide which one you prefer and which one meets your budget or your requirements. On to the US recommended spec PCs now. We're starting off the US recommended PCs with the Asus ROG Strix G10 DK gaming desktop PC. It's got a Ryzen 7 5700G, 16 gig of RAM, 512 gig PCIe SSD with a terabyte hard drive. It's got the RTX 3060 as well, which is the graphics card that all of these have had so far. It's the graphics card that we're going to be looking at for the recommended spec. This is a renewed PC as opposed to being new, but I don't see that as a problem personally. It's been renewed, it is refurbished, it is in good condition, it has been checked. This isn't like buying secondhand from eBay or something. We're still getting a well-made, built, checked PC that, again, the reason I recommend Amazon is because the returns system on Amazon is pretty simple, and it's going to be same across the board for whatever PC you buy. 8-core CPU with the Ryzen 7, that's a very good CPU. 16 gig of RAM, which meets the requirements that we're looking for. Plenty of storage with your SSD and a hard drive as well. And again, the RTX 3060, which is the graphics card that we're looking for to meet the recommended spec. So this is $699, so nearest damn at $700. I think a good option if you can grab something like this from Amazon that is renewed, refurbished, whatever they want to call it. These are a good deal when they're renewed like this. I don't know how much this would cost brand new, to be honest. I didn't even bother looking that up. It just meets the spec and it is a reasonable price. On to PC number 2 for the US recommended. We're looking at the Skytech Gaming Blaze 3.0 gaming desktop, i5-12400F, RTX 3060, 500 gig SSD, 16 gig of RAM, and we're looking here at $799.99, so $800. Again, it meets all the specs that we're looking at. It's got the 16 gig of RAM that we need. It's got the RTX 3060 that we need. It's got a decent, fairly up-to-date i5 CPU, and it's got 500 gig SSD, which is enough to put the game on and have Windows installed and stuff. Again, you might want to add more storage, but that is a very, very simple thing to do and a very simple, I guess, upgrade. It's not really an upgrade, it's just more storage, but you know, it is kind of an upgrade. So again, I think this is a good option. It's telling me that this is the lowest price in 30 days. I don't know whether the Black Friday sale has any impact on that, but Skytech is a brand that I've recommended a few times. They seem to have some decent deals on their PCs, so this meets the spec and it looks like a decent all-round machine. So yeah, maybe this is an option for you for $800. If that's the budget you're looking for, maybe this is the PC for you. On to our final US recommended PC. We have the Viper Tech Rebel Gaming PC. This has a Ryzen 5 12L core, which I think means it is a 6-core with 12 threads, I think, basically, if I'm remembering that correctly. But anyway, the Ryzen 5 doesn't tell me which one. Oh, it's the 2600. Okay, so Ryzen 5 2600. It has an RTX 3060. This has 32 gig of RAM and a terabyte NVMe SSD. So we're looking at the same price as the last PC, but we've got a terabyte SSD, so plenty more fast storage because we're not using a hard drive, we're using an SSD, which is very nice. Still got the 3060, which is perfect, a really good graphics card, and the one that we're looking for to meet the recommended. We have twice as much RAM with the 32 gig of DDR4. The only slight downside is that it is a Ryzen 5 2600, which is a little bit of an older Ryzen CPU, but nonetheless, I think this is still going to perform well and still be a really, really nice PC, a really good performing PC. And with stuff like 32 gig of RAM, you've got more than is necessary, and you've got that already built-in upgrade with having 32 over 16. Again, you can still add more storage should you need it, which you probably will these days. But again, I think all around this is a really good PC, and for $800, I think it's a good shout. Now, I know it's the same price as the last PC. It is still the same price. It is up to you whether the difference in the extra RAM, the more SSD storage, is worth the slight downgrade on the CPU, if that makes sense. So it is a little bit of a balancing act, but I honestly don't think that you'll see a huge difference in performance just from that difference of CPU between these two PCs. So there we go. They are the picks that I have chosen from Amazon for gaming PCs that meet the spec of Modern Warfare 3. So I hope this has helped. As with all of these videos I ever do recommending PCs, or any PC mentioning video, I'm always open to you guys contacting me, whether that be on Twitter or wherever you find me. Drop it in the comments, asking for advice for your specific budget, for your specific needs, if there's something you want to do, if you're looking for a VR PC, if you're looking to play a specific game. I am always open and always happy to help you guys. So if there are any questions that you have, please do drop them in the comments, or email me, or tweet me, whatever you want to do, whatever way you can get in contact. I always do my best to get back to every single one of you as best I can. I really appreciate you guys sticking around watching this video, and hopefully it has helped some of you guys out in making a choice in terms of your PC. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, all the links to these PCs will be in the description, and over time I will release newer, updated versions of this video. Probably not for Modern Warfare 3, but I will release, more PC recommendations in the future, as long as you guys still want to see that and it's still helpful to you. But thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy the video or found it useful, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye!